A Midwestern town in America, Raccoon City. A solitary island far off in the sea, Rockfort Island. An island that would become the second Raccoon City, Sheena Island. There are still many unanswered questions about these seemingly unrelated yet intensely traumatic events. Though it is believed that the International Enterprise umbrella was somehow involved, little is known as to the origin of this faceless corporation. When was it established? By whom? And how was the T-Virus created? To uncover the truth, we must delve deeper into the events which transpired in the beginning, before the Mansion incident.
Do you think so too?
Yeah.
Do about it.
Hold off for a while.
But I wonder how those R&D people would react to this.
It began as a simple investigation of some bizarre murders in the suburbs of Raccoon City. Nothing in our training could ever have prepared us for the nightmare that ensued. We never stood a chance.
What's going on? Engine failure. Emergency landing.
Check the current position and investigate the surrounding area.
Captain, look! Captain!
What happened?
Court order for transportation. Prisoner Billy Cohen, ex-lieutenant, 26 years old. Court-martialed and sentenced to death July 22nd. Prisoner is to be transferred to the Regathon base for execution.
Those poor soldiers. They were good men just doing their jobs, and that scum murdered them and escaped.
All right, everyone, let's separate and survey the area. Our friend is brutal and ruthless. Keep your guard up.
A train?
Hello. Welcome to the first commentary
version of my PS4 videos. What's really cool about this is Resident Evil 1, and I just absolutely love it. Now, this is my first try at commentary, at least this first episode of Resident Evil 0. So not only is it gonna, I played this game previously, but it will take some getting used to the controls. Whoops, that is not what I want. Because I feel like every Resident Evil game, they change the control schematics each time. And I don't know why. And they always have these like tank controls too. Well, besides Resident Evil 2 remake, the second Resident Evil game, the remake, has actual what I would call like legitimate normal controls. But I want to do a walkthrough of
This is Officer Chambers from STARS Bravo team. Please identify yourself. Is someone there?
The government has announced that it has set out to our department. But as of 2 years ago, when several plans were set up, the local government stepped in and took over.
oh,
What just happened? I thought they were dead.
I thought I was doing commentary. So what I was saying was I love the aesthetic of the original Resident Evil games. I love these games dearly. Still terrible at Resident Evil games. Like just recently for New Year's Eve, I was playing Resident Evil 2 Remake on I think it was like Resident Evil Story Beeline with Leon, with a couple of friends of mine, and we were at the last bosses, and I struggled so hard. It was really sad, and I was on hard difficulty, and I mean I'm still bad at this game, so. But please bear with me. So what I was saying was, you know, I really love these games. I always want to do a walkthrough of all of the Resident Evil games. Obviously, Resident Evil 3 is coming out. I own all the Resident Evil games. I would just love to play them all. Maybe not a couple of them, but like obviously my favorite Resident Evil games I definitely want to play again. Now there are some what was it? I had some eternal debates about whether or not I was going to do commentary for these videos or not. I really love Resident Evil games. I think they're aesthetically pleasing. In fact, I would argue that these Resident Evil games, 1, 0, 2, the original 2, and 3, are art forms in themselves. I mean, I think they are masterpieces of just design, geometrical design, art design, lighting design, etc. And yes, I think I have a previous save file. Yeah, I'll just overwrite that one. And so there was sort of this debate I had. Do I commentate, I guess, or add commentary upon what I think is a really good, you know, piece of art as itself with this lighting, this picture, and so forth? Or do I, you know, just do no commentary? And it was a really hard choice. I decided to do commentary just because I would have liked to add sort of my thoughts, my opinions, my arguments on why I think the Resident Evil games are really good and really beautiful, especially these classic ones like Resident Evil 0, 1, 2, and 3, and even Resident Evil 4.
Billy. Lieutenant Cohen.
So, you seem to know me. Been fantasizing about me, have you?
You're the prisoner that was being transferred for execution. You were with those soldiers outside.
Oh, I see. You're with STARS. Well, no offense, honey, but your kind doesn't seem to want me around, so I'm afraid our little chat time is over.
Wait! You're under arrest.
No thanks, Dollface. I've already worn handcuffs.
I could shoot, you know. Edward! Are you alright? What happened?
It's worse than... We can't. You must be careful, Rebecca. The forest is full of zombies and monsters.
Zombies and monsters.
And what Resident Evil 1, 0, and as you can tell from the fixed camera, the lighting, especially with these HD versions, do well is they create a atmosphere. That's what's fantastic about these games. Even Resident Evil 2 Remake, even though it has the camera behind the shoulder and so forth. Oh, I went in this room already. Even though it has the camera over the shoulder and it gets rid of that fixed camera, that angle and so forth, it still has a level of creative atmosphere to it that I think the Resident Evil games are known for, that they do well at, and etc. Walked into that. Now, there are a couple criticisms that I have with this game. Oh gosh. That's to be expected, I think, with every game, really, be honest. What's really cool, one thing that I remembered when I first saw the cutscene where, oh man, I forget her name. What is her name?
This is Rebecca. Over.
Rebecca. There you go.
This is Rico. What's your location? Over.
Enrico! Hello! Can you read me? Please respond.
Rebecca, I can hear you. Now listen up. We've obtained detailed information on the fugitive from a document found in the wrecked wagon. Billy Cohen killed as many as 23 people. Over.
23 people.
We have also confirmed that he was institutionalized, so keep your guard up. Can you hear me, Rebecca? Over. Stay alert, Rebecca. He wouldn't think twice before killing you.
Enrico! Captain! Hello? Hello!
So, one thing that I had noticed and remembered when I just played through Resident Evil 2 Remake and then starting up this again is that they both have this level schematic, which is really interesting, is that they're almost 3 parts. You have Resident Evil 2, which starts off in the police station, and then you have it go to the garage, then you have it finally go into the underground laboratory, Umbrella Laboratory in Raccoon City. And same way for this, there's 3 levels, 3 parts. The train, which we're on currently.
It's gonna be dangerous from here on in. Why don't we cooperate?
Cooperate with you?
Listen, little girl, if you haven't noticed, there's some pretty freaked out things on this train. And I, for one, want to get out of here. I don't think we stand a chance doing it alone.
You expect me to trust you, a wanted felon? I don't need your help. I can handle this on my own. And don't call me little girl.
All right, Miss Do-It-Yourself. What should I call you?
The name is Rebecca Chambers, but that's Officer Chambers to you.
Well then, Rebecca, why don't you go and try while I wait here?
As I was saying, this also has 3 parts to it. It has the train level, it has the mansion, and then it has finally the underground sort of facility. It's interesting. I would like to research if some of the other early sort of Resident Evil games does this or do it or not. Structure their games into 3-part levels. It would just be interesting to know that. What I know a lot of people criticize Resident Evil 0. Still not quite sure why. Like, there's a huge fan base that just doesn't like this one. I think it originally came out on the GameCube as well. I might be wrong. It could have came out on the Wii, but I'm not sure.
Excuse me, sir. Sir.
Are you okay? Who is that guy?
What's going on? Who's controlling the train?
Go and check out the first engine car. Listen, we gotta cooperate with each other from now on. You got that?
Well, I don't...
Clue in, girl. Or maybe you like being worm bait.
All right. But you just remember, I will shoot you if you try anything funny.
Fine. Now take these with you. If you find anything, give me a call, all right?
Oh, my cat's trying to sit on my lap. But yeah, there's a huge, I think, a sort of classic Resident Evil fan base that seems to for some reason not like Resident Evil 0. I'm not quite sure why, but oh, okay. Trying to figure out these controls real quick. Oh, okay, so that's switch. Okay. Maybe I should just look at the controls again. Let's see. Main character, move partner character. Okay. I think I figured it out. Okay. So let's try this. Oh.
I'll go.
Yeah.
So
This way.
Yeah.
that's how you have them follow you. Now I really sort of hope I sort of remember these puzzles. It'll definitely make the walkthrough quicker and easier if I do. They can be a bit tricky, as every classic Resident Evil puzzle can be. But I played through it once, and I sort of played through it recently, all the way through. I played through it completely before I moved into the apartment that I'm in right now. So it's still sort of fresh in my memory, but who knows? Okay. Oh, okay. Gotcha. So you have, to some degree, 2 inventory slots, which does make it a bit easier, but not so much. Oh man, what did that, I keep... So one of the problems is the controls, like I said, are completely different from each game. So I'm sort of, I think, either using the control schematics from, Resident Evil, 2 or 1. For some reason, I'm using one of those control schematics, and it's throwing me off completely. But I do plan on, oh, okay, there we go, yep. I do plan on, continuing this sort of Resident Evil walkthrough, with a, Resident Evil 1, obviously, Resident Evil 2, etc. Don't know how hard I'll put the setting on, Resident Evil 2, or any of the other games, but, I'll probably put it on, like, some sort of simple, normal, setting, just so that I don't die too much, playing the games for you guys. Oh, okay. I remember what the key's for. Alright, so I already used the key. Figure that out. And go back to the ladder. Now, I had mentioned this to a friend of mine, which is the fixed camera was, in the original Resident Evil games, played 2 parts. It was partly due to the fact that there was a limitation to their, the systems that they were using, the video game systems, and the time. So it was easier to do a fixed camera than an over-the-shoulder camera, as we saw in Resident Evil 4. And then the later games like Resident Evil 5, 6, etc. But they used it also as an artistic standpoint, because they showed you what the director wanted to show you, just like any sort of film. each intro, each scene cut, as it were, shows you exactly what the director, what the creator wants you to see. And that's clever. That's using a weakness, a limitation, for your own good, as a strength, as it were. And it was really clever. In fact, I think it actually is partly the reason why these classic Resident Evil games, such as Resident Evil 0, 1, the original 2 and 3, are artistic pieces in themselves. So the trick about this part is back and forth. The first level, the train level specifically, this part forces you to switch between characters. While you would naturally like play as one character and have the one character follow, this shows you, oh no, you have to have the characters split up and have them separate for a bit, a portion, and go back and forth, have one character do one thing and another character do another to solve a puzzle. And I think that's actually really clever. Resident Evil 1 definitely doesn't do it, and 2 doesn't do it. So it's really clever that they have this sort of switching back and forth mechanic to solve puzzles. Have one character stuck in one area and have another character stuck in another area, putting together a puzzle or solution or whatever. And the intro, this train level, essentially forces the player to solve puzzles like that. Ooh. See, okay. So, you don't know this because obviously you don't see what buttons I'm pressing. But on the PlayStation 4, I keep pressing the triangle button because I think it's Resident Evil 2 Remake. But, I believe Resident Evil 2 Remake, the menu button is the triangle button, so I keep pressing it thinking, oh, that's the menu button. And foolish me, I keep pressing the switch character button, which is triangle. So I gotta get used to pressing square, which is the menu button. This is probably gonna be one of the last videos I make, actually, before I start my spring semester. It's weird. This spring semester, I'm taking a another I'm taking another modern philosophy class. So my first 2 years, I went to a community college, take primarily, you know, a lot of my introductory sort of college courses. And I got through a lot of my general eds that way and etc. And one of the classes I took was, you know, modern and ancient philosophy. And for some odd reason, when I went to the university, when I transferred my credits and everything, they still want you to take another ancient and another modern philosophy class for, you know, philosophy major. And it's just very bizarre for me because, for example, I had previously taken at the university another ancient philosophy course. And while it was good, I really enjoyed it. In fact, it was it was better than the one I had taken at the community college, in the fact that it went over more material. It was still pretty much the same course. You know, it went over the pre-Socratic philosophers, it went over Plato, it went over Aristotle. So it went over. Gosh darn it! I pressed same button again. So used to that. While I took this course, this ancient philosophy course at the community college, they still want you to repeat it at the university. Same with modern philosophy, and it's really bizarre for me, especially since it's pretty much going over the same, almost redundant philosophy at this point. There we go, pressing the wrong button. I actually don't remember ever using the knife, so I'm gonna... Should I leave it? No. I'll leave that. Oh. Leave that, yes. Oh, because I'm over the same spot I left that. Okay. I keep pressing the same button. So yeah, it's a little bizarre for me. Now the professor already posted what textbook to have, which is really cool. However, the textbook, which I find a bit bizarre, is pretty much It's pretty much like a group of essays or short snippets or sections of works by modern philosophers. And while I enjoy that, I'd rather have a first-hand read of certain modern philosophers always, or any philosopher by that matter. It's weird to, why did I equip this? It's a weird book, because it only has about 5 or 6 philosophers in it from the Enlightenment period. It pretty much goes from Descartes to Kant. Making it not really a large book. It's a fairly short book. Oh gosh darn it, I forget what I need. I came up here and it looks like I'm not gaining anything from this area besides a shotgun. But what's weird about it, while I have many books by modern philosophers, that's what I need. Alright. While I have many books by modern philosophers, including Descartes, Spinoza, Kant, etc., Hume, Nietzsche, it's... Where did I put this shotgun? There you go. It's weirdly short because not only do I have first-hand books from Kant, Descartes, etc., it's that I have another modern philosophy, Enlightenment period philosophy book with collections similar to this one. However, it actually has more, and I'm sort of surprised that this expensive college textbook has as few essays as it does. Oops. Really weird right now, but my cat is completely blocking TV. Oppenheimer, come on down. Oh, he's not gonna come down. He looks angry. But it's strange to essentially see a expensive textbook not being really worth its price, because the other book that I got with the collection of modern philosophers and their essays, I got originally at Barnes & Noble, years ago, when I was first starting philosophy, and it served its purpose. It was really good at sort of introducing me to a lot of those philosophers without me buying a huge book, let's say, of Descartes' complete, essays or works or etc. it gave me a synopsis, an idea of what Descartes was without giving me an interpretation. For example, I had recently read for my Karl Marx class the myth, and I think it was the myth and philosophy, the life, myth, and philosophy of Karl Marx, something like that, by Robert Tucker, I think is his name. Robert C. Tucker, maybe. But he's a famous Marx scholar. But he gives his interpretation in his book. And I really didn't like it. I really liked his Karl Marx reader, his Marx and Engels reader. But his interpretation book was, it was really, in my opinion, really bad. And you shouldn't really read it. Because there were a lot of essays which I think he overlooks a lot of criticisms you could make of Karl Marx. And really shows a Christian interpretation of Karl Marx. It's just really, I could see where he was coming from, but I still don't agree with it. Whoops. Either way, that's one of the positive sides I could argue with this book. It's first-hand essays from Descartes, Spinoza, Kant, Hume, etc. Berkeley, I think, is in there as well. So it's good in that regard. I much prefer reading synopsis of philosophers than an interpretation. You should always read the philosopher first and then maybe an interpretation. For example, you should read Karl Marx first before you start reading Robert C. Tucker's interpretation. Now that I'm together, I sort of forget what I do. Well, now that the power's on, no, I still can't go through here. I keep pressing the wrong button. But to continue my point, the fact of the matter is that you really should take any interpretation of a philosopher as a, for a grain of salt. You're never sure if the interpretation is biased, whether this philosopher who's making this interpretation had read every work by such philosopher. And sometimes each interpretation can be different depending on the person. For example, I wrote a paper on Plato and his myth of and also the Republic in general, and a couple arguments from it. In my interpretations, my arguments were based off of my experience with reading classic ancient Greek poetry and epics, as well as reading Shakespeare. So a lot of it was based off of classic literature, really. And so my interpretation was founded upon that. It was surrounded by that. So there was, to some degree, a bias around it. Besides that, I could be also biased towards a lot of continental philosophers. I do, to some degree, prefer a lot of the continental philosophers. I have a lot of favorites, philosophers that are continental. I tend to criticize, for some reason, a lot of the analytical philosophers, so who knows? Maybe I'm biased towards that. So you have to always be careful, always mindful when you read interpretations. And that's why, to some degree, as I'll reiterate, is that I like this textbook that I got for modern philosophy. However, I will say this, I had heard a little rumor through the academic grapevine about the professor teaching this modern philosophy class, and he is a Nietzsche scholar, and I've read some of his essays, some of his interpretations of Nietzsche, and to some degree I like him, to some degree I don't. So it'll be interesting taking his class. I think to some degree I'll like his class a lot. To some degree I'll probably be annoyed by my classmates a lot, etc. Ooh, that's what I need. So it'll be interesting. The other class I'm taking is philosophy of technology. So this will probably be going lightly into a general topic of, bioethics, robot ethics, as I had done previously, global warming and environmental ethics as well. So it'll be interesting. I think I'll find myself oddly interested in the class. It is also sort of a general ed class for philosophy majors, so it's not too high of a level, but it'll be interesting. The other class that I'm continuing, which I extremely love, is Russian. I'm taking my second part of my second year of Russian, and I love the language dearly. It is a phenomenal language. I've enjoyed taking Russian, and it's great. To some degree, I mean, you can always criticize a culture and its government, and I criticize the government and the politics that swarm Russia currently, as I criticize our own government and politics currently, but for different reasons. But one of the problems I have, I think, with modern criticisms, especially from America towards Russia, is that a lot of Americans, even though they hate the Russian government currently, they tend to hate Russia in general. just because they hate the government. And I think that's wrong. You can hate, for example, the government in which you currently live in, another foreign government, etc. But it doesn't mean the culture itself is bad. For example, I mean, let's leave that, yeah. For example, I mean, America, you know, we have our own problems politically and economically, and we shouldn't frown upon our own, we shouldn't hate America in general just because of certain aspects which we could criticize. Same with Russia, same with any other country like Afghanistan, Iraq, Middle East, Asia, for example, China, Venezuela. There's several countries where we could pick and choose certain things that we dislike or can criticize, but we shouldn't hate everybody that lives in the country, every aspects of their culture just because of certain things. Oh, okay. I vaguely remember this puzzle.
Let's split up.
Okay. Come on.
Okay.
But yeah, that's my little rant about that. And it's kind of frustrating because every time I tell somebody, like, oh yeah, I'm learning Russian, I practice my Russian or whatever out in public, a lot of people are like, oh, Russian hacker, oh, Russian Putin, yeah. And even though, like, you might hate the president of Russia currently or etc., or what had previously existed in Russia, meaning Soviet Union, etc., doesn't mean Russia's not filled with this fantastic culture. Take, for example, all these great classical composers and these classic writers from Russia. You have Igor Stravinsky, Rachmaninoff, Tchaikovsky, Shostakovich, as composers from Russia. I mean, these fantastic composers. And then you also have these great writers like Tolstoy, Dostoevsky, Chekhov, Pushkin, who is the comedian? Gogol, I think is his name. And so you have all of these fantastic writers, composers, artists, all from Russia. And while, I mean, obviously Soviet Union, etc., all these bad things which happen within Russia's politics, the czars, you know, obviously, I mean, you could criticize President Vladimir Putin, and their political situation, their views towards LGBTQ. However, their, gosh darn it. I'll have to go back for that. There is a fantastic culture underneath that. Same with America. I mean, you could criticize America's politics right now, but you can't deny that the fusion between all the cultures that America has brought upon so much great art. For example, I mean, take a look at jazz. I mean, jazz was the sort of combination and configuration of you know, European classical music and African American blues music, and you see this wonderful combination, this togetherness of two distinct cultures, which to some degree have been at odds with each other, with, you know, all the racial divides and etc. And they've come together to make this beautiful music, i.e. jazz and etc. And it's fantastic when you see that in America. Same with other cultures and groups in America. And while you could criticize today's politics and etc., you can't hate America's culture in itself, in general. But I think that's enough ranting for one episode. Thanks for watching. I really hope you like the commentary in these videos. I hope I'm not too much of a bore. I really love the Resident Evil games. They're fantastic art pieces, and I hope to continue them with you guys in further episodes. Please leave a like if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to see some more videos that I have to offer. And hopefully I'll see you on the next one. So, goodbye.